Yep.
I've probably worn this shirt at some point. I definitely know there's some baby spit up
Somewhere on it.
somewhere on this shirt,
Eh.
somewhere on it. Well, it's my life now, but
See, always checking to make sure I see it on YouTube.
I
Yep,
got it.
shows that we're live.
It's so moody. Some weeks it doesn't show up, and then other weeks it does.
Yeah, someone's just like, yeah, this is great, and other times it's like this trash.
Yeah, we love this show this week.
I don't want to wait too long. I know people drain in, they'll trickle in.
Um,
They'll probably drop in here and there.
shameless plug,
Plug.
not pug. That's a dog. Alex Best, the co-owner and co-founder of Solverine, was on Savan podcast this morning. You can also find that.
Really?
Yeah, you can find that on YouTube. And it was
Heck
just
yeah.
it was a good look into like obviously who she is, but also the background of Solverine and kind of what we stand for and who we are. So if anyone's interested, they can watch that interview. It's fun. So I feel like it definitely portrays the young and fun environment that we try to. There's no old farts hanging
Yeah.
around, dimming the mood.
Young crew, young leadership,
Yeah.
new minds, and bring in the true facts and knowledge into
Mhm.
the supplement industry. No BS.
No
I wanted to say
BS.
it, but
It's cute with PG.
well, yeah, maybe
It
not
is funny,
PC, but
right?
PG.
My daughter's at the age where she like knows what a curse word is, and she
Mm.
also knows she's not allowed to say it. So she's like, "Mom, when I'm taller, I can say bad words." And I'm like, "No, I mean you can, but that doesn't mean you should,
How about
right?
no?
How about no?" But I'm trying to teach her the thing of like, just because adults can say bad words doesn't necessarily mean they should. That's something that you'll have to really think about when you're older. And obviously, she has no clue about like environment and context, right? So, shouldn't be cursing up a storm in church. And so, anytime I listen to like podcasts or something like that, a lot of them will say bad words in here and there, and she'll go, "Oh, Mom, he said a bad word." And so then I have to turn it off because I'm like, oh, she's listening. So it's funny we're at that age. When I'm taller, I can say
Oh,
bad words.
always, always. All right, we're 3 minutes in.
I
Let's
think
get
they're
this
ready.
thing rocking on. Yeah. All right, y'all. Welcome to Grit Daily Dose with E Squared. Said it before, say it again. We really try to be a one-stop shop for all things science and experience-based for knowledge and on supplements, exercise, nutrition, lifestyle. Really just to bring you guys an honest education on all those things to help you along the way in whatever journey you're on. Health and wellness is strong to us, and we just want to help however we can. Today's episode is really strong on goal setting. And a big portion of that is going to be on really developing the journey and just reflexing on here.
Goals.
Yeah, setting up the goals and kind of some bits and pieces to that. And then we'll touch base on macronutrients, just like the fundamentals of how not only us as coaches sometimes look at setting those up for people, but kind of like the baseline of some ratios or percentages that people can look at. If you guys want more on macronutrients, which we'll probably do an episode as well,
Yeah.
let us know in the comments. That way, this way, I don't know which way down there. um, but so nutrition goals. Today, we're really talking about setting nutrition goals, and especially when it comes to um, health and wellness journeys. And when it does come to that, most people typically think about a kind of a collection of things, and that's like losing fat or gaining muscle. Am I gonna? I want to work out more.
Occasionally, it's like I want to run a marathon or
Yeah,
something fun. Yeah.
Then they're also thinking about things like how much water they're drinking, possibly also their sleep or stress, and all the foods that they eat, or maybe the foods they're not eating that they should be. Um, so initially, when we go into developing really the journey for ourselves, we have to be in the right mindset first and foremost in order to keep ourselves motivated and really our adherence to the plan high. So, how do we do that? That starts first and foremost with finding your why. I've all my clients know this, and Emma, I'm sure, is first and foremost experience with that as well. Even myself, it's like, why are we doing this? So before we can figure out how we're going to do something, we have to understand why it's so important to us.
Mhm.
Emma, do you have anything to expand on that?
Yeah, actually, the I used to have a coach and a boss that would always say like find your why, all this
Mhm.
stuff, and it would drive me crazy because it kind of would taunt me because I could never really figure out what my why was. And at that time, I was like a single young girl in college, and I think I was just a little too ashamed to admit that like my why is I want to be young and hot and strong and independent, right? Like that was my why, but I didn't really want to say that, right? Like I wanted my answer to be a little bit more spiritual and like maybe
Right.
inspirational. And really at that time I was like I just want to like look good, right? Look
Mhm.
good naked, right? And now like I feel like it's my answer is things like I tell a lot of people, I have young kids and my mom's almost 70 and she's able to like come here, pick up my kids, run around with them, have so much fun, and I want to do that. And so that's a little bit more of my why is like if I don't take care of my body inside and out as well as my mind and my attitude and my spirit and things like that, there's I won't last as long for my kids, and my kids deserve the world, especially a parent that's healthy that they don't have to worry about when they're older. So um, that's kind of my why now. So I just wanted to share that with like if anyone's really struggling to figure out their why, don't feel discouraged. It can be a little tricky, and like I always say, sometimes the answer is more simple than you think. So the reason I always put off finding my why before was because it was as silly as I just want to look good naked. That's it. That's the whole reason I'm doing this, right? And I wanted it to be more, I don't know, inspirational, and it just wasn't, and that's fine. I think everyone should have a period in their life where they do get a little bit selfish of maybe finding their why. So just wanted to offer that encouragement because oftentimes it's a little more simple than you think.
Yeah, and as a nutrition coach, we like to really dive deep into those why. And so, perfect example, as you're saying, like it could be as simple as someone saying, I want to look better naked.
Hmm.
Okay, well, why is that important to you?
Hmm.
Okay, it could be, well, I've never really been in shape my entire life. Okay, why now? Why is it important to you now? Well, you know, I don't know, it could be I'm 30 years old and I want to eventually start a family. Okay, why is it important for you to have a family?
Yeah.
Hey, you can go down a big rabbit hole
Yeah.
to get to the root of why people have these goals.
Hmm.
So I love your input that you had for that. And so the next step to all this is exactly that. It's setting up that goal. Now, when we start setting our goals, there's two types of goals. You have your outcome goals and your process goals. The outcome goals are these like end result goals, something you wish to achieve, but in a specific time frame. But there's also something that they're going to keep you motivated to
Hmm.
get there. So when we look at these, we like refer to them as like SMART goals. There's specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and then time sensitive. Um, an example would be like the famous, I want to lose 20 pounds in 5 months, which is totally reasonable. Because typically I like to have people lose about a pound to two every week.
Hmm.
Um, I usually like to say the slower you lose it, more likely you're going to keep it off.
Because
Um,
you get used to the lifestyle throughout that time, right? You're not just like dropping
absolutely.
weight out of nowhere and then you don't actually ever learn how to maintain that lifestyle and what
Which,
consistency looks like, right?
yep, which we can in another episode go into how quickly should I lose weight.
Mm-hmm.
We can go into the fad diets of something that'll restrict your calories severely so that you drop weight really rapidly. More often than not, what do we see? People on that weight, uh, put that weight right back on, or they put even more on. So
Or they
longevity,
just
want to
burn out, destroy their hormones. They just become this grumpy, hungry, tired person. I've done it. I've met a lot of people that have done it. I've recently, like in the last 2 years, the last person I talked to about who was like severely restricting calories, I think she was eating 1,100 calories a day. She was a
wow.
mom of five, 4 or 5, and she was going to CrossFit every day. And I was like, you do realize you're hungry because your body's starving, right? I think just keeping it in mind, like I'm sure she was following some template that was completely generic and
Mhm.
unrealistic, but it just kind of breaks my heart how many people will just have this unrealistic idea of what food actually does. It's just not, it's not realistic at all. So please
No.
don't restrict food like that. It's not good for you. Some restrictions in some areas is fine.
Yeah,
But
we have to have that like realistic goal. Can't
yeah.
just be restriction all the time,
Mhm.
uh, but something that's realistic. As this smart goal is going to be something that ultimately can increase the chances of us reaching the ultimate goal.
Mhm.
Um, then, on the other hand, we have the process goals, and those are like the little action steps or the little mini goals um, that'll help you keep focused as you continue your journey and your efforts towards the outcome goal, the end
Mhm.
result. Um, Want to make sure a couple things. One, these are these little goals, little mini victory goals are something you can control. And then, secondly, that when you do, and I say this because I suggest people writing them down, is that they're always written in the positive or they're always set in your mind as a positive. So, example of uh, kind of a process goal is I will not eat fast food for lunch. That's an example of a process goal. But then we need to rephrase it, I should say, to be a more positive example for it. So more like, I will take my lunch to work on X amount of days
Mhm.
each week. So want to keep it positive, and then something that you can control with those. The final step. I'm sorry, I should have asked. Do you have anything else to touch on that?
I think the thing that came to mind is putting it in a positive frame helps you reach, just have a better attitude, right? And then you reach the goal, um, or it helps you just get to the goal a little bit easier. It's a little bit more attainable, realistic, right? What we talked about. I also think it allows you to like breathe a little bit when you mess up. So if you're like, I will not eat fast food, and
Mm-hmm.
then like the one day you do eat fast food, you're just destroying yourself over this one thing that you did because you're a human being. And so
Yep.
um I read something years ago and it's always stuck with me and I remind myself of it all the time because I'm that person who has and still frequently is like if it's not perfect I'm not going to do it at all. So I saw this one person that was like the way that you're beating yourself up over that one bad decision is doing more harm to you than that one bad decision itself, right? So like you eating that extra bowl of chips, just move on and like learn and try your best not to do it again. And then but like you sitting for days and punishing yourself and beating yourself up because you made one wrong step, right? And
Hmm.
so, and a lot of times, especially for people like us who have dealt with eating disorders in the past, like being able to eat that extra bowl of chips and be like, well, probably should have not done that, but okay, and
But it
then
was
just
good.
move on. Yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it. Now I got some extra carbs for my workout tomorrow, so there's just like being able to frame it like that
Hmm.
um, is helpful. So I think I like that positive because it has more effects on people and their mindset towards things and their ability to quickly bounce back if they fall off the rails a
Hmm.
little bit than people think it does. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
And that is, there you go again, perfect segue into the last step of what is called the 3 R's. This is refocus, reframe, and recover. So, with the first R being, well, the whole point of this last step is that uh, life isn't a straight line from where you are now to where you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's full of twists and turns and hills and valleys. Like it's not going to be easy, but it's going to be worth it. And you're going to slip up. And that's okay. We just follow this step when that does happen. Not if, but when. So, with the first one being refocus, this is, yes, it's called refocusing, but it's also about reflection, about what happened, um, acknowledging it, but also how far you've come
Mm-hmm.
to where you're at, and recognizing those small victories along the way. And then even if you've like maybe you're only 3 weeks in, 2 weeks in even, and you have a slip up and you happen to be at the situation of utilizing this refocus. Okay, let's refocus on what our goal is.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe it's revisiting that outcome goal, which then we can get into reframing. Now we need to restructure that that outcome goal. Is that outcome goal really specific? Is it really realistic for you?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there needs to be some adjustments there, or even to the process of how we want to get to that goal. Um, are our steps to get there the steps that we need, or that are going to be effective, or do we need to reframe some of it? And then lastly is the stuff that you talked about is the recover. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's okay that you messed up, acknowledge it,
Mm-hmm.
like it did happen, and learn from it and move forward,
Mm-hmm.
because this isn't the end of the world and it's not the end of your journey.
Yeah.
It's just a pit stop. Allows you to refuel, refocus, and continue on.
I
Yeah,
I
go ahead.
sometimes struggle with the term like, oh, well, you messed up, it's okay, because I think a lot of my battle with nutrition and stuff has been I've always known like what the right thing to do is, right? Like whole foods, enough protein, eating enough, maybe, don't eat too much at one time, eat slowly, like pay attention to your body. What do you need? Maybe eat healthy fats at certain points. So like all these extra, I totally understand why nutrition can be so overwhelming because everyone's in a different spot and needs different things and has different backgrounds and different futures and different current demands and stress and stuff like that. So sometimes I struggle with like, oh, well, you messed up, because sometimes also my wins are not stressing if I do eat a chocolate bar. like but I have to also keep that in mind, like, good job, Emma, you're not having a panic attack for eating extra calories, but don't keep doing that because we know what it leads to. So it's this weird halfway, battle of like acknowledging that, yeah, this doesn't align with my goals currently, right?
Mhm.
But overall, it's good that I'm still able to enjoy life and have a s'mores with my kid on 4th of July and, enjoy things. And sometimes, I said I wouldn't have a s'mores, but here I am pigging out on a s'more. And you know what? I'm giggling, I'm chasing my kids with marshmallow fingers. Like, there's just things that can be attached to maybe not making the best choice. And I think that
Mhm.
being accountable to yourself for being like, okay, I didn't keep my promise, but that doesn't necessarily mean I messed up or am screwed or whatever. So I think it can be sometimes an internal battle, and I have to kind of talk myself through it of like, okay, yeah, I did have that, and I said I wouldn't, and it doesn't really help my goals, but I made a great memory, or
Mhm.
I'm not super stressed about it, or actually I feel like I could have used those extra carbs because I feel great today, like whatever, or I slept great last night or anything like that. So I just know that there's been times where I've like tried to punish myself, and it always just comes back to me and hurts me worse in the end. So
Yeah.
um, I just think that everyone can be different. And I read something today that like if you're struggling with something, like go to your coach and talk to your coach about it, because your coach will be the last person to judge you. If you don't have a coach, talk to EJ, talk to me. We're going to be the last people to be bashing on you. I do think it's also important that you have a coach that knows their scope. So in my intake form, I have a very clearly labeled area defining and approaching the topic of eating disorders, being like, this
Yeah.
is what an eating disorder is. Have you ever been, or do you diagnose, or do you believe you have one? Because if someone answers yes to that, I'm being like, all right, if you currently have one, we're going to need to send you to someone a little bit more, professional in that area. So
Yeah.
I think it's like working with a coach, someone who's qualified, someone who won't judge you, um, and you're able to sit down and you know refocus, reframe, recover. But at first, focus, frame, and figure out like where you want to go, right? um
Mhm.
and then, because
And
I
that's
feel
what a
like
coach is
everyone's
for the
journey
entire
is,
process.
yeah, I feel like the whole journey is important. um but everyone's going to be a little different. So some people are going to be like, no, I can't have cake at this birthday party, and that's going to be a win. And then other people are being like, well, this is the first piece of cake I've had in 10 years, and I'm not freaking out, right? So I think wins can look very different. The recovery
Mhm.
part is big, though, because the recovery part, I think, is where you're going to recover, use your mental training and mental lessons that you've learned from nutrition. You can let that
Yeah, and
thing
that's
just throw you off, or you can mentally retrack and get back to it.
yeah, absolutely. Because one big aspect that we talk about with a lot of the clients is your support system with all of this.
Mm-hmm.
And so if it's, not having a coach, like I loved how you said, like, if you're going through these struggles or dealing with the recovery, then it's being able to bounce these emotions and these questions that you have off of your coach, because we are those people that you should trust. You should feel that you can trust us in coming to us with um, almost anything,
Mm-hmm.
and realize that we're going to be there to help you figure out the answer. We're not going to
Mm-hmm.
give you the answer. That's not our job. It's for us to help you figure out the answer for yourself. Um, and though, when it comes to recovery, one of the things we talk to people about is having that support system. And if we aren't the support system immediately, then who is in your immediate circle?
Mm-hmm.
Typically referring to the 5 people closest to you, um, of who you can go to in the time of questions. I know, like for myself, if I freak out about my macro sometimes. Trust me, guys, it still happens that I
It
freak
never
out.
ends.
Doesn't. I still freak out about how much I eat, what I do and don't eat, the balance of my nutrition, and I immediately go to my wife and say, she is not a person when it comes to nutrition. And
But she
people
loves
from
you no
Grandville
matter
know, but
what,
yeah,
right? And that's important.
she's the first person I go to when
Yeah.
I have these mental games of like, what should I eat? I don't know. I
She's
think I
like,
ate too much.
EJ, I didn't marry you for your dinner choices.
She's like, well,
Like,
first, usually
come
she just
on.
goes, look at you. I think you'll be okay.
Did you gain 100 pounds in 3 seconds? You'll
Right.
be
That's usually,
fine.
she just gives it back pretty harsh and just
That's
like,
awesome.
like a soft backhand. That's what she does. A soft backhand. Just like pull yourself together.
Yeah.
You're okay. You had the Reese's peanut butter cup or whatever. Tomorrow's a new day.
Hmm.
Get back on it. And obviously, maybe that aggressive of an approach is not for you. But I'm someone that likes, very blunt. I like a very straightforward.
I've had, uh, I don't know, I think both can serve you. At certain points of my life, I needed people who challenged me to look inside and see. I've tried the like very deep soul searching connection,
Mhm.
but I've excelled the most with coaches that look at me and be like, stop making it emotional and eat the food. And I'm like, okay. And I do it, right? Because that's just where, I think some people, and that's just how I am in general, like I'm not really super emotional about stuff. I'm dramatic. I am a dramatic person, but I'm not like crying every day and, like I'm just not a dramatic girl. So I do very well responding to when people are like, Emma, it's not that deep. Just eat the food, right? Like, so and at the end of the day too, I have to like really ask myself, how far does this go? um is this one day going to change your entire life? Like you are on this trajectory literally for the rest of your life. It's not, you're not going to lose 20 pounds, get super shredded, and then just be like, oh well, I made it, I never have to worry about it again, I can move on to the next thing that stresses me out. Like you're just never gonna get there. I was talking to someone today about pelvic floor and pelvic floor therapy and health and things like that, and she's like, she just had a baby about a year ago, and she said, well, my pelvic floor isn't at like 100%. And I was like, but what even is 100%? Like, not ever worrying about your pelvic floor ever again. I'm like, you've had a baby. That changes you forever. Like, whether you get stronger after baby or not, you're still going to have to maintain pelvic floor health, right? Or what? And there's science saying that pregnancy and delivery and motherhood changes you like within yourself, like biologically within your cells for the rest of your life. So, who you were before you had kids is not at all the same person who you were after, which is also why nutrition is very important in the postpartum phase.
Absolutely.
I eat
Absolutely.
lots of healthy fats. I ain't afraid of that avocado and peanut butter, that's for sure. Um, but I just think you have to really look into like, okay, yeah, what are my goals now? But like, if you start to panic and you're freaking out, a big thing that helps me is either go to someone who's going to give it to me straight, like, dude, chill out. You're being dramatic. It's not like that emotional. Just eat whatever. Or I can just dig in and be like, okay, but am I panicking over something that I'm going to have to be, that I need to foster a good relationship with because I'm going to be in this forever, right? So um, I'm married to this life. Like, just because my husband did something to make me mad doesn't mean I'm gonna divorce him and run down. Like it's a forever thing. So I better
Mhm.
figure out how to like get along with it. Figure out what works best for me. Every season's gonna be different. The same thing that worked for me 4 years ago is not gonna work for me today. Maybe it will, but chances are your life has changed enough, right? So I just like to give people those realistic tools. I also tell people, one of my slogans is, the day that you start eating healthy is not going to be the day that suddenly all the fast food joints just poof into the air and never exist again. There will be temptations, there will be challenges, but I love the 3 R's. The refocus, reframe, recover. That's just a great way. I would actually probably even have people like write that up, like little mantras, like maybe on their mirror or a whiteboard or something to have in their kitchen.
I'll make a t-shirt.
T-shirt, or like, I don't know, maybe even a pre-made fill out sheet that you write out with them, like refocus and reframe, recover, all kind of spaced out in big bold letters, and they can write their own answers to it, like
I like
maybe a little mantra below it, and they can just right under that, magnet of their kid school picture, right on the fridge, and they can, like, if they panic, they can look. because a lot of my panicking happens in the kitchen. I'm like, ooh, I really want that, cheesecake. So it's like, so yeah, I really like this conversation. I feel like we should do a number of nutrition things.
Hmm.
Um, and just talking about the very clear expectations, realities, maybe share our stories throughout it, just because I feel like it humanizes everyone a little bit.
Absolutely.
We're not just regurgitating information with no expectation or, you know, of imperfection.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So I know we're diving into this quite a bit, but the other thing we wanted to touch on, kind of switching gears, is macronutrients.
yeah.
We'll touch on those just a little bit from a coach's standpoint on kind of how we view them. And again, if you guys want another episode where we really dive into these, let us know, and we'll be happy to create that for you. Um, but when it comes to macronutrients, how we kind of lay them out for clients who would like macronutrients, who are going to track, and what tracking can kind of look like, various roles, I should say, various roles of tracking or methods of tracking.
There's so many different ways.
Yeah.
Visual, counting macros on my fitness pal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You could
There's,
paper log stuff if you want
yeah.
to.
Doing like a pre-made sheet of exactly how much things should weigh. I've seen
Yeah.
it all. Yeah.
So, like for majority of my clients, and we were just talking about it, and we talk about like the big one, protein. That's the one we really start to look at. Well, first and foremost, when we look at tracking, if we're going to set up macros for someone to track, I like to be as accurate as possible if we can be.
Mm.
If we're trying to be as accurate as possible, that means we want to know height, weight, um, obviously gender, exercise level, uh, daily activity level, and then, if possible, your body fat percentage. That allows us to get really, really accurate um, targets. There's always a margin of error, but it allows
Yeah.
us to get pretty close to what you should be taking in um, for progress towards your goal. Especially if we're still going to look at kind of like that lose 20 pounds in 5 months.
Mm-hmm.
So when it gets to protein, I don't know about you. I think we're right on the same track. I usually go for about 0.8 grams to 1.2 um, per pound of body weight. Is that where you line up to?
Yeah, with the only stipulation being if they are
Mean
pretty
body mass, I should
obese.
say.
Yeah, or like if they're pretty obese or anything like that, then you'd ideally go a little bit more towards their ideal body weight, right? So,
Mhm.
because if you're working with someone who's pretty heavy, that's a lot of protein to try to fulfill. So
Yeah,
you don't want to be
someone's
like, here's 300 grams of
320
protein.
pounds. Yeah,
No,
yeah.
that's a lot.
So
So,
let me get back. Like the caveat to that, like I said, is that we measure that not necessarily on body weight. If we know body fat percentage,
mhm,
then we go off of lean body mass. So if you weigh 200 pounds and you've got 170 pounds of lean body mass on you, then we work off that 170.
mhm.
Um, I mean, for me, I guess that's a range. I usually start with the protein content.
Yeah.
Uh, uh,
I just feel like that's the most fills you up the most. It's the most helpful
yeah,
for your body
yep.
to use. Gets you the most gains,
Mhm.
best sleep.
Initially, I figure out calories, what someone needs is calories
Yeah,
overall.
yeah.
And then I figure out the amount of protein. I figure out how much protein, how many calories are in that protein, do some math. And then we start looking at the carbohydrates. Then I look at the fat
What's your
content.
best? Do you use the InBody to figure out help you
Basal
figure out
metabolic
their
rate.
calorie? Yeah, the
I usually
uh,
start with the in body. If they've been
okay.
able to take an in body, um, that'll give me an estimated basal metabolic rate, like the calories they would burn if they're just laying around all day.
Mm-hmm.
Then from there, based on the activity level, I'll do multiplication. Like it's like typically like it's various like 0.8 to 1.2, 0.3 to like 1.5.
It sounds like what formula is that?
It's the
Harris
yeah,
Benedict.
yep,
Yeah.
yep.
I remembered.
Oh my gosh,
My mom brain
slipping
is
mine.
good for something.
But that'll be like what we start off of.
Yeah.
And then adjust from there. Once we found their TDE, which is their total daily energy expenditure, then we subtract the calories if need be, and then we implement the calories from the protein. Once we have the calories left over, then of total calories, I should say. Oh man, people are gonna get so confused with this.
Well, I just think it's important to hear that you
Like,
do take it from somewhere. You're not just like picking in a number out of the air. The
like,
other thing that one looks nice. The other thing that's important too is that took me a way longer than it should have to learn. Like I've known this for a while, but like when I learned it, I was like, why did no one tell me this before? Protein is 4 calories per gram.
Mm-hmm.
And then as well as carbs, and then fat is 9 calories per gram. Or is it?
Yep. Yeah.
Which one's
You're right.
7?
Right.
Is that
alcohol?
Alcohol is 7. Yeah. So
alcohol is kind of like that mystery. People like to say it's the 4th macronutrient.
Yeah.
But really, it's absorbed into our body like a carbohydrate and then processes throughout our system like a fat.
So it's very weird. Middle of the road kind of thing. Yep. Yeah. So I just think that that's helpful for people to know, not to get into the weeds, but there is math behind it. Like, and then that's why your fat number will be quite a bit lower than your protein, because there's a lot more calories in a gram of fat. So I just think, unless people really did the digging themselves, which most people won't, because as soon as they do, it's pretty overwhelming. Or they're just finding a random number on the internet and trying to eat that, right? So, that's usually why fats will be lower, protein will be pretty moderate, and then carbs will be moderate to high, depending on your caloric intake. So,
and as well as your activity level. So there's a specific range that I usually start. A lot of people like a breakdown, but it really just depends on the athlete. Like, what's your obviously the actual factual information we have, like the tangible stuff, the weight, the height, your body fat percentage, if we can get that. But then there's the kind of stuff that's on a spectrum, which is your daily activity level, and then your amount of exercise that you do every day. And so that's just, it's various with that. And there's always a trial and error with it all, getting through and really trying to figure out. That's why when we do have nutrition programs, when I get anyone set up on a nutrition program and we're doing macros, I start everyone off on a 12-week program. That way, those first 4 months, if we're tracking macros, then we're really doing our trial and error and try to find our smooth rhythm.
Yeah.
I've been doing it for a while, so I like to say I'm pretty good.
You found a good way to adjust quicker.
Yeah. Not to have an ego, but I've done pretty good at finding macros.
Experience brings, higher quality work, I feel like. So,
but we found the point that people can have calories, feel comfortable, and still see results, and that's what I want for people. I will never all of a sudden just drop calories for someone just to get a result and have them feeling miserable and not being able to adhere to the program.
Yeah, because we talked about sustainability too. Like, sometimes the journey to get to where you really want to go, as frustrating as it can be, and like forever it can be, you're learning sustainability and habits. Absolutely. And that's going to be the biggest thing, because like I said earlier, like, it is a lifelong journey. And if you cannot learn how to sustain your efforts and your habits, you're never going to get where you want to go. Or if you do, you're not going to stay there for very long. So, sustainability is important. Yes. It might be annoying. I promise, we've all been there where we're like, just give me abs.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I was talking about that with someone today. It's like, why can't I just have abs? I'm like, it's like I have them for a split second, and then I'm like, get comfortable. And it's like, now when I eat what I really want to eat, and then they all of a sudden disappear, and you're
The
like,
best
oh,
is like early in the morning, that early morning skinny. You get a little peek of them. You're like, okay, I'm almost there.
yeah.
And then you have breakfast, it's all gone. You're like, well,
Oh,
at least I'm feeding myself.
at least we had a moment together. But it's all a journey, and hopefully, what we talked about today and like kind of developing that journey and setting up goals helped some people. And if people want more expansion on certain areas, let us know in the comments. And I'm pretty sure we'll do an expansion on macronutrients because I really I'm jonesing to go down the rabbit hole of this
Well, I
topic.
think
I love the math
learning the
behind it all.
yeah, I think learning the science, the math, like for me, learning really the intricacies of it make me understand how it works better, makes me a little bit more confident in my application. So people want to
I don't
know
want,
more, then they can watch
and
it.
even if they don't fully understand it, that's totally okay.
Yeah.
But just it gives them more, I think, validity to like the experience and the stuff that we know and the effort and the actual work that we put behind figuring
Yeah.
this stuff out, like you said.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
you got anything else?
No, that was a
All
great
right.
episode.
All right, guys. Take care. I'll talk to y'all later. We will talk to you guys later.
Next week.
Next episode. Yes, next week.
Be here.
Yep. Peace out.
Bye.